We're hearing a notable shift from President Trump as he now says he wants House Republicans to vote to release the Epstein investigation files. And this comes days after he held meetings in the Situation Room over the House's effort, potentially forcing the Justice Department to act. For more perspective, we are joined by former federal prosecutor Neama Rahmani. Hi, Neama. Thanks for coming on. So part of the president's post yesterday mentioned releasing whatever the House Oversight Committee is legally entitled to. What is your sense of what that would include?
Pamela, well, under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, the House is trying to get everything that the Department of Justice has. And let's be honest here, the DOJ can choose to release these files at any time. There are some restrictions, of course, for grand jury material and for material that identifies victims of sex abuse. But these are privileges that the Department of Justice has, the law enforcement privileges, the deliberative process privilege, executive privilege. They can waive that at any moment and release the files. But if they produce everything to Congress, I expect that to include everything, the judicial files, the terabytes of data that were discussed in the Ghislaine Maxwell case, the Virginia Giuffre civil case. And I think if Congress does have everything, we're going to see a lot more than the emails that were released last week.
Yeah, I just had a Republican congressman on last week who was talking about there is lots of tapes as well involving Jeffrey Epstein and victims. So there is still a lot out there that hasn't been made public. But I wonder, you note that DOJ could release everything. But now, as you well know, President Trump has called on DOJ to launch its own investigation on Epstein and high-profile Democrats. The Attorney General on Friday said she's on it. She's already assigned a prosecutor. So could the DOJ now say, well, we can't release anything because we have an ongoing investigation?
Potentially, yes. And we know the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York, U.S. Attorney Clayton is going to lead that investigation. But let's not forget, Pamela, just in July, the DOJ issued its memo saying there's no basis to charge anyone else related to the Jeffrey Epstein sex abuse. So that would be a 180, not just for President Trump, but for the DOJ itself. And when you're talking about a legal case, you need more than what's in the Epstein files, those emails, or even Virginia Giuffre's memoir. For a criminal prosecution, or even a civil case for that matter, you're going to need a ready, willing, and able victim. And unless someone comes forward and accuses anyone of sex abuse, and that person is willing to testify at trial, everything that we've seen, it's hearsay. And under the confrontation clause of the Constitution, anyone who's accused, a criminal defendant, they have a right to cross-examine their accuser. So we're going to need more than the evidence that we've been talking about, whether it's emails, whether it's videos, to actually pursue a prosecution against anyone. Everything we've seen so far is more for the court of public opinion than evidence that can actually be introduced in a courtroom.
So there are two tracks going on right now. There is this petition for this full vote on the House floor that is expected tomorrow to release all the Epstein files. It would then go to the Senate and then to the president's desk, right? So some hurdles. And then you have the House Oversight Committee. It has issued subpoenas in this case, including to DOJ. And I interviewed a Democratic member of the committee who says DOJ hasn't handed over everything responsive to the subpoena that the committee had issued it. What could the committee do to compel DOJ to hand over more information?
Well, there's the political track that you talked about, Pamela. So the House, Senate, President, potentially an override of a veto, but it seems like the president would sign that bill into law based on his statement yesterday. Then there's the legal track. So the question is, there are these privileges that the DOJ normally holds, the law enforcement privilege, the deliberative process privilege. This is what protects them from having to disclose evidence related to an ongoing criminal investigation or for even an investigation that's closed. Now, typically, the DOJ protects these privileges very aggressively. So is there a possibility where Congress passes this law and the DOJ says, no, we're not going to waive this privilege. We're going to assert the privilege, and we're still going to resist producing these files to Congress, in which case, of course, the courts would have to weigh in and deal with that dispute between Article 1, Congress, and Article 2, the executive, which they do all the time.
Which could also drag on for quite some time. Neama Rahmani, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Wolf.
Very good
Thanks,
interview.
Emma.
Thank you very much.